What's about to happen across America in the next 96 hours has meteorologists calling emergency meetings nationwide. Wind chills plunging to 60 below zero, a massive moisture surge from the Gulf, and a stalling boundary that refuses to move. These three ingredients are converging right now into what could become the most significant winter storm we've seen all season. From Dallas to Atlanta, from Memphis to Washington, D.C., over 80 million Americans are in the potential impact zone this weekend. And here's what makes this setup so remarkable. Both the European and American models just came into stunning agreement overnight. But before I reveal exactly what these models are showing, I need you to understand why this pattern is so unusual. This is the same atmospheric configuration that produced the historic 2021 Texas freeze and last year's paralyzing southern ice storms. So let me break down exactly what's coming, who's in the crosshairs, and what you need to do before Friday morning arrives. Now, the first ingredient in this volatile mixture is already on the move, and it's absolutely brutal. An intense surge of Arctic air is pouring out of Canada right now. And this isn't your typical January cold snap. We're talking about wind chills dropping to 50, even 60 degrees below zero across the northern plains by Friday morning. At those temperatures, exposed skin can develop frostbite in under 5 minutes. This is genuinely life-threatening cold. Minneapolis, Fargo, Sioux Falls. If you're waking up in these cities right now, this is your 72-hour warning. But here's where this story takes a turn that even 30-year veterans are calling remarkable. This cold isn't staying north. By Friday night, this Arctic air will punch all the way down into Texas, and that's when everything changes. Drop your city in the comments right now because what I'm about to show you affects different regions in completely different ways. I'll personally respond to as many locations as possible because the details of this storm matter enormously for your specific area. Now, the second ingredient is what transforms this from a cold event into a potential winter storm disaster. A remarkable surge of Gulf moisture is organizing right now at levels we rarely see in the middle of January. This moisture will rocket northward and collide head-on with that Arctic air mass by late Thursday into Friday. And when you combine extreme cold with extreme moisture, the atmosphere has only one response: explosive winter weather. But wait until you hear about the third ingredient, because this is what separates a manageable storm from a historic one. The models are showing this frontal boundary could slow down dramatically or even stall completely over the same areas for hours. When that happens, instead of a quick hit of snow or ice, you get prolonged accumulation that just keeps piling up. This is the exact setup that buried cities under a foot of snow last winter, and the signals are even stronger this time. So now let me walk you through exactly how this unfolds day by day, because the timeline here is critical. Today and tomorrow, the opening act is already underway, and it's impressive in its own right. A powerful low-pressure system sitting northeast of Michigan is unleashing intense lake-effect snow right now. If you're in Watertown, New York, or anywhere near the Tug Hill Plateau, brace yourself. 3 to 6 feet of snow is possible. Yes, you heard that correctly. We're talking about potentially 6 feet of lake-effect snow in the most favored locations. Buffalo, Syracuse, Rochester, your lake-effect machines are running at full capacity through Tuesday. But here's the thing. This lake-effect event is just the warm-up act for what's coming later this week. By Tuesday and Wednesday, the Arctic air shifts eastward and a weak Alberta clipper slides through the Midwest. Chicago, Detroit, Indianapolis, Cleveland, you'll feel temperatures dropping and maybe grab an inch or two of snow. Nothing major from this clipper system, but consider it a preview, a taste of winter before the main event arrives. New York City, Philadelphia, Boston, Washington, D.C. The cold reaches you by midweek, so layer up. Now here's where I need everyone to pay extremely close attention, because Thursday changes everything. By late Wednesday into Thursday, a massive reservoir of Arctic air will be spinning over central Canada. This is the cold air source region, the fuel tank that's going to power everything that happens Friday and Saturday. And when this air mass begins its southward plunge on Thursday, it's not going to stop at the Canadian border. It's not going to stop at Minnesota or Wisconsin. This cold is driving all the way to the Gulf Coast. By Friday morning, wind chills in Minnesota and the Dakotas will bottom out around 50 to 60 below zero. The sub-zero line will extend down into central Indiana and Ohio, places that don't normally see this kind of cold. But the real story is what happens when this Arctic air collides with that Gulf moisture over the southern plains. And this is where I have to show you what the models revealed overnight, because the implications are significant. The GFS and European model are now in remarkable agreement that a major winter storm will develop Friday into Saturday. When these two independent modeling systems align like this, 4 to 5 days out, meteorologists pay serious attention. So let me show you both scenarios, because understanding the range of possibilities will help you prepare appropriately. The GFS model is showing a major swath of snow from Oklahoma and Texas extending into the Carolinas and Georgia. On this solution, cities like Oklahoma City, Dallas, Little Rock, and Atlanta are all in the direct line of fire. If you're waking up in any of these cities right now, your weekend plans may be about to change dramatically. But here's where the European model tells an even more aggressive story that could impact millions more people. The Euro is projecting heavy snow stretching from Texas all the way through Virginia, a massive 1,200-mile swath. In this scenario, we could see widespread 8 to 12-inch snow totals across areas that rarely experience anything like this. Charlotte, Raleigh, Richmond, even Washington, D.C. The European model puts you squarely in the impact zone. Now, I want to be clear. I'm not guaranteeing everyone sees 8 to 12 inches of snow this weekend. What I'm showing you is the potential magnitude if all three ingredients align in the most favorable configuration. The truth probably lands somewhere between these two model solutions. But either way, this is a significant event. Here's a question for those of you watching from the potential impact zone. How prepared is your city for heavy snow? Let me know in the comments, because I'm curious whether your area has adequate snow removal equipment for what's coming. Now let me address the ice threat, because honestly, ice could be the most dangerous aspect of this entire storm. The GFS is showing an ice storm developing across central and southern Texas, Louisiana, and into Georgia and South Carolina. If you remember what ice did to Texas in 2021, the power outages, the burst pipes, this setup has similar potential. The European model is even more aggressive with ice, showing some areas potentially receiving over an inch of accumulation. Now, I don't think that extreme scenario is likely, but even a quarter inch of ice can be absolutely devastating. Power lines snap, roads become impassable, and entire regions can go dark for days. This is serious stuff. Houston, San Antonio, Baton Rouge, Jackson, Mobile. The ice threat is something you need to monitor very closely. By Saturday morning, wind chills across Texas and the Gulf Coast could plunge into the teens and single digits. That's the coldest air this region has seen since last winter's Arctic outbreak. And we all remember how that ended. Now let me run through the major cities one by one, because I know many of you are watching for your specific area. Dallas-Fort Worth, you're positioned right on the knife's edge between snow and ice. Either outcome is possible. If you're in the DFW Metroplex, you have until Thursday evening to complete your preparations. Don't wait until Friday. Austin and San Antonio face a similar situation. You could see snow, ice, or a dangerous combination of both. Oklahoma City and Tulsa, the confidence for significant snow in your areas is actually higher than cities further south. Kansas City, Wichita, Springfield, you're in the sweet spot for accumulating snow if this system tracks as expected. Little Rock and Memphis, you're sitting right on that critical boundary line where cold and warm air will battle it out. Nashville and Birmingham, your fate depends on exactly where the storm tracks. Stay tuned for updates Tuesday and Wednesday. Atlanta, if you remember the infamous 2014 ice storm that stranded thousands on highways, you understand why this matters. Even a few inches of snow in Atlanta creates absolute gridlock, and this storm has potential for more than a few inches. Charlotte and Raleigh, the European model puts you in line for significant accumulation. Keep watching the forecasts closely. Washington, D.C., Baltimore, Richmond. You're on the northern edge of this system, but you could still see impacts. And for those of you in the Northeast wondering if you're included, the main snow stays south of you this time. But New York, Boston, Philadelphia, the bitter cold will definitely reach you, so prepare for a frigid weekend regardless. For the upper Midwest, Chicago, Milwaukee, Minneapolis, Green Bay, the cold is your primary concern this weekend. Limit outdoor exposure during the worst of it Friday and Saturday. This is dangerous, potentially life-threatening cold. Now here's what separates this forecast from the hype you might see elsewhere. I'm going to be honest about the uncertainty. We're still 4 to 5 days out, and the exact details about who sees snow versus ice will continue to evolve. The probability of at least 1 inch of snow has jumped to over 70% for Oklahoma, Kansas, Missouri, and Arkansas. That's a massive increase from just 48 hours ago when those same areas were sitting at only 10 to 20%. So the trend is clearly pointing toward a significant event, but the precise details need another day or two to lock in. By Tuesday afternoon, we'll have a much clearer picture of exactly which cities need to be actively preparing. And by Wednesday evening, we should know with high confidence who's getting snow, who's getting ice, and how much. So here's my advice. There's no reason to panic or rush out and clear the shelves at your local grocery store today. But if you live anywhere from Texas to the Carolinas, this is absolutely a system that deserves your serious attention. The setup is reminiscent of the winter storms last February that brought significant impacts across the entire South. Those events prove that when Arctic air and Gulf moisture collide over the southern states, the results can be historic. What I find most compelling about this setup is how consistent the signal has been across multiple independent models. When you see the GFS, the European, and their ensemble members all point in the same direction, that carries real weight. This is the kind of pattern agreement that meteorologists look for when assessing the potential for a major weather event. So let me summarize the 3 key ingredients that are coming together to make this weekend so potentially impactful. Ingredient 1, an extreme Arctic air mass bringing dangerous, potentially record-breaking cold across the northern tier. Ingredient 2, abundant Gulf moisture surging northward at levels we rarely see this time of year. Ingredient 3, a potentially stalling frontal boundary that could allow these elements to interact for extended periods. The result could be the most significant winter storm of the season, affecting tens of millions from Texas to Virginia. Confidence is high that something major will happen. The remaining questions are exactly where and exactly how much. Now, I want to ask you directly, what's your biggest concern about this upcoming weather pattern? Is it the extreme cold, the potential for heavy snow, the threat of ice accumulation, or possible power outages? Drop your answer in the comments along with your city, because I want to address the concerns that matter most to this community. The 10 most mentioned cities in the comments will get detailed breakdowns in tomorrow's forecast update. Speaking of tomorrow, the overnight model runs are going to be absolutely critical for refining this forecast. The data that comes in between now and tomorrow morning will tell us whether this storm exceeds expectations or falls short. If the trends continue in the direction they've been heading, we could be looking at a genuinely historic winter event. But if the models back off, this could end up being more of a moderate inconvenience than a major disruption. Either way, the next 24 hours of data will tell the story, and I'll have those updates for you first thing tomorrow. This is exactly the kind of high-stakes weather pattern that requires constant monitoring as it evolves. If this storm continues trending toward being as significant as the models suggest, expect multiple updates daily. There's also a very high likelihood of live coverage if this winter storm tracks toward major population centers. We're heading into what could be one of the most significant winter weather weeks this season, and I want you prepared. The combination of extreme cold and a potentially major snow and ice storm doesn't happen often, but when it does, it's memorable. So here's my final question for you today. Are you hoping this storm delivers? Or are you hoping the models are wrong? Snow lovers and winter weather enthusiasts have been waiting for a setup like this. But travelers and commuters, not so much. Let me know where you stand in the comments, and don't forget to drop your city so I can help you prepare. The next model runs drop in about 6 hours, and what they show could significantly change the forecast conversation. I'll be analyzing every single run and bringing you the most important developments as this historic pattern unfolds. Stay weather aware, stay safe, and I'll see you in tomorrow's critical update. Trust me, you won't want to miss it. Winter is about to remind millions of Americans exactly why it's called the most powerful season of the year.